this one kid yells, "Rejected!" And I feel something all of a sudden hit me. And it's like kind of warm.
Oh my gosh.
And I look and it's clam chowder.
On today's episode, please welcome back Morgan Evans as we discuss the dreaded topic of perfection.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. All right.
Strap in.
We dive deep into that feeling of being paralyzed by perfection, how to break stagnation and feeling stuck, and I even tell a few embarrassing stories of getting rejected hard.
I had the fear of going to homecoming alone, and guess what? I went alone, and I wore all black and a pink tie and a fedora.
This is a fun one, guys. Welcome to Create.Repeat.
Voices in my head telling me it's now or never. Just turned 31, I can't deny the pressure. Even at my best, I know that I can do better. Running out of time, but how the hell can you measure your life? Lately, I've been thinking, then I wonder.
Hello.
Hi.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, Zach. Whoa.
This girl's an artist. She can rhyme.
You heard it here first.
I was just straight off the dome, too.
It's because we just had lunch.
We had lunch. We are fed, and we are ready to give you another amazing episode of Create.Repeat.
Let's go.
All right. Do you know what we're talking about today?
I know what we're talking about today.
Well,
what are we talking about? Do you want to share?
I feel like you felt like that was accusatory. It wasn't. I was just being playful. What do you...
Oh, you were flirting.
Yeah.
I'm feeling kind of full from lunch. I wasn't picking that up.
We had salad for lunch.
Oh.
Today's episode is titled, "Don't Let Perfect Be the Enemy of Good."
Ooh.
Don't let perfect be the enemy of good. And that is going to be our first saying. For those of you who are just seeing this for the first time or need a little bit of a reminder, we are going through our Instagram page and finding posts and quotes that we found and bringing them to this table to talk about the backstory of them and for you guys to learn a little bit more about our creative process and our background in general.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. All right.
Strap in.
We are fresh off lunch as a reminder. All right. So yeah, the first one is don't let perfect be the enemy of good.
Explain it.
Perfection can be paralyzing. I think every creative person has dealt with the paralyzing fear of trying to make something as good as they can be.
I agree.
Something that blew my mind is, as you know, I'm a big hip hop fan, especially like 90s hip hop.
Legendary.
So I love Dr. Dre.
As one does.
If you don't know who Dr. Dre is, one, it's past your bedtime, you're too young. And two, it's lunchtime, remind you. And two, Dr. Dre is a producer and a rapper, and he is known for making, probably two of the most iconic rap albums ever, that being The Chronic and Chronic 2001. Those were his two albums.
Killer.
Well, there was a third album that was called Detox, and it's a legendary album that was out there. Drake wrote for it. Lil Wayne wrote for it.
What year was this?
Jay-Z wrote for it. What year? There's the kicker. He was working on this album for over 10 years.
Oh.
He was really trying to make the greatest album of all time, or at least the greatest Dr. Dre album of all time.
Okay.
He had all these collaborators. I think Kanye was involved, all these different people. And they all tell this story about how he would bring them into the studio. They would have a session and he would play them the album and they all thought it was a masterpiece.
Wow.
But Dr. Dre kept listening to it every single day until he started to hate it. And he was overanalyzing it.
Dr. Dre.
I know. Come on.
Dre.
Dr. Dre, what are you doing? And that album, Detox, never was released.
No.
And instead, he released an album years later when the NWA movie came out. That was sort of more of a soundtrack to the movie. But this album, Detox, never came out. It's weird when you think of someone that is like Dr. Dre's caliber, who is a musical genius.
Legendary, one of one.
Even he is a person that deals with that paralyzing perfectionism.
Of course.
It wasn't up to his standard. And so the rest of us, the public,
right.
We never got to hear it. And we probably will never get to hear it.
Maybe we'll get to hear it.
I mean,
Maybe he'll hear this podcast and feel inspired.
He's like, I like what that Zach guy's saying. Let me throw out Detox. We're like, oh, wow. And there's just like a bunch of like 2012 references on it. We're like, oh.
Yeah, you're like, yeah.
This is
and like Drake's on it, Kanye.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay.
But like, I've always thought that was crazy to me that there's someone that good at what they do where
they're still second guessing themselves.
They're still second guessing and they're getting paralyzed by that perfection. And I think that's what this saying, like, don't let perfect be the enemy of good is. I think sometimes I would have just loved a Dr. Dre album, even if that was a 7 out of 10 album.
Of course.
And I do think a lot of artists, especially once they start to hit that next phase, they start to panic a little bit.
Well, I mean, imagine too, just like winning all these awards, getting all this recognition. Like even after you win a gold medal, like a lot of athletes talk about how depression follows that because you literally got what you were going after for so long.
Right.
I can't imagine like what's next. I mean, you created viral videos for a living. Like once you hit one with like over 1 million views, I'd be like, oh, shit. I'm supposed to do this again?
Yeah, you're only as good as your next thing. And I think that's like partly on us as a society, specifically in this social media era, because we're just consuming so much stuff that it's hard for us to appreciate it. I mean, just look at music, right? Like we are back in the one-hit wonder era. Everybody is just trying to have one hit on a TikTok and hopefully they can get it in a car commercial and make money off it.
Of course.
And no one's really putting out these like front to back albums that will be timeless and that you can listen to.
Right.
You know, this is actually like, I'm not sure if this is, one of my favorite artists is Frank Ocean. I feel like, you know, that's not.
Oh, I'm familiar.
Yeah. And that's not, I'm not being like original by saying that. Like he's an amazing artist and a lot of people love him. And, you know, he's only released 2 albums in like over 10 years. I think Channel Orange came out when I was in college and then Blonde came out. And, you know, sometimes I wonder if he is a person that is playing stuff for his friends and family and it's just not good enough to come out, or if he's actually a person, and he's said this in interviews before, where he likes to go and live life and he likes to record an album and then go live his life, experience life, and then have something to draw on to write something.
That's his process.
Yeah. And I think those
beautiful.
are 2 different things.
Absolutely.
And I do sometimes wonder about Dr. Dre, like, you know, if you're like in your like Malibu beach house, like making it, I don't know, like you'll never have that like raw sound from the Chronic.
No, I feel like that's why my favorite saying is this is the worst it'll ever be, is because I do think there's something like you and I have a really cool banter, authenticity happening right now that like, who's to say in a year from now, like it won't be our first podcast anymore.
Right.
It won't be the first time you and I are like, we might not have this buzzy excitement, nervous energy. We're gonna be like, here we go, podcast 100.
Yeah.
Right. But I wonder.
Yeah. I just find that really interesting. But I try to tell myself that with like, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. You know, it's better that you put something out versus not putting something out at all, because you're going to learn something from it.
Also, I kind of like that saying too of like, you always remind me of like, once you release something, it's not yours anymore.
Right.
And maybe there's a part of the perfectionism that you're kind of like, when something is your baby, maybe you want to keep it for yourself.
Totally.
Maybe Dr. Dre needed that for himself.
Yeah. And you know what? Like, I see this a lot of times. Like I'm a writer. Okay. I'm writing screenplays and TV pilots.
Yes,
and a lot of times, like my biggest moment of writer's block just comes from trying to make it perfect from the very jump. Like when I'm writing interior cafe day, spoiler alert, it starts in a cafe. I'm hoping that this is the opening scene that's going to hook everybody, that's going to be the amazing thing, when in reality, I'm going to have 10 to 20 more drafts of this. This idea is going to change and evolve. And the best advice that I've ever been given as like a writer is to just put out all of your garbage, get all of your ideas out onto the page. And the best thing for you to do is to write it all out and then see the end. Another saying that we've had before is don't be creative and analytical at the same time.
Ooh.
You know, I think it's great. We're getting so much smarter as creatives because of the internet, and we're seeing these algorithms and we're getting insights on our posts and everything, where you can start to in real time calculate how something is doing.
Right. What's working, what's not.
Yeah, but that's definitely starting to control your creativity in what you're doing. And so it's best to try to separate that stuff. Give yourself a place to play and explore and have fun. And then you can come back and edit later.
I agree.
And people have their different methods for when they're writing and when they're creating their stuff. You know, some people like to write one day, the next day edit, write, edit. Some people do it after the next hour. It's whatever works for you.
Absolutely.
But I find that really, important. Just getting it all out, putting it out there, make the shit draft.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. So don't let perfect be the enemy of good.
I feel like that goes off of my other favorite one, which is lower the stakes.
Just lower them.
Lower the stakes. I always say it's not that deep. And the problem with that is it is that deep. And that's why it's that deep and you can't do what you need to do. But just picture it with me for a moment. We need to lower the stakes. I love the book In the Creative Act by Rick Rubin. He says, we tend to think what we're making is the most important thing in our lives, and it's going to define us for all of eternity. Consider moving forward with the more accurate point of view that it's a small work, a beginning. Creative Acts, that book, it's like talking about the Bible. Like if you're creative, you know this book, period. But I
Isn't
feel
that
like
so true though? Like when you are crafting something, like
yes.
It feels, because that inspiration that you have is what's getting you out of bed and making
Absolutely.
you wanting to make the thing.
It is very precious. But again, I do think sometimes like the pressure to perform and the amount of effort and honestly the pieces of your soul it takes to make something that you love and you like, and then to have the courage to share it with other people. Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. But that is paralyzing. That is striving for perfectionism. And often I feel like my need for perfectionism comes from this insecurity about perception, right? Like I often fear like, ooh, like what will people think? And I feel like I'm someone when I am scrolling on Instagram and people are sharing their art, I'm analytical. I'll admit it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at stuff from like a professional point of view, like, whoa, that's sick. Or like, oh, okay. Like, okay, good job. Always supportive. But
Sure.
like, because I am like that, I assume others think that way, right?
Right.
I'm like, oh, I could be judgmental at times and other people must think the same about me. And often that paralyzes me from sharing because I feel like I'm like, ooh, this is not good. Or like, maybe I don't look my best right there. Or like these people. And I'm like, that's so much noise that is so unnecessary. And it really bogs down the creative process. And I find the more time I spend reading books like this, less time scrolling, I find myself opened up, right? I find myself more inspired. I find myself willing to risk it all in a sense, right?
Yeah. I mean, we made this video that was from an interview with A$AP Rocky, and he was like, since when has it become uncool not to try?
That's a bar.
I think it's just like, it's so easy to be a hater on the sideline, just going like, oh, they put that out, that's not great, or oh, that's embarrassing or whatever. But if you're not actively doing it either,
no,
who cares?
It's embarrassing not to try. Like really put some effort out there.
Yeah. So even if someone does think of you for some way, because if you're out there trying, who cares? At the end of the day, their opinion doesn't matter. Do you have fun doing it? Do you like what you're doing? Do you like what you're putting out? That's all that matters.
Absolutely. And it's okay if it's something new.
Yeah.
You're allowed to evolve and be a new person. And I feel like sometimes what holds people back is like, oh, like the people I grew up with, like they don't really understand this new path I'm taking. And I'm like, those are things that hold you back.
Yeah.
Like sometimes I'm kind of like, I'm ready to just start a new Instagram and be a random human out on the internet. Cause I don't want to be associated with past versions of myself. Not that it's like that crazy or that deep, but sometimes there is a freedom. That's why I feel like
that's relatable.
People got so excited about TikTok just because it was a new platform where I'm like, folks from high school won't know I'm here. And for some reason, I feel alive because of that.
I remember talking with you where I was so afraid to make a TikTok because, because of my background working in the internet and making viral videos and the game had now changed and I didn't know the rules to it. I remember telling you, I'm like, if I make a video that only gets 50 views, it might break me.
You're like, I'm not trying to be broken today, Morgan. I'm like, bro, relax.
And I really had to just lower the stakes and remember this is all supposed to be fun. You know, it's really stupid to start writing your Academy Awards speech before you even start writing the actual script. So just lower the stakes. Think about it for you. Don't try to think about like, this is my golden ticket. This is what's going to get me out of here. I think that's only how you get into trouble.
Right. You can speak life into things.
We
believe in manifesting, but it's a certain point sometimes where it makes something bigger than it is.
Do you remember like auditioning and thinking like, I think the worst thing.
No, this is why I'm not acting in Los Angeles. Okay. There's reasons. I was choking. Like the pressure for 10 seconds of someone's time to go, Clorox is clean. I was busting. That is not a sponsor on this podcast, but I'm like, there's too many stakes.
I had to do this audition once and I was probably like, all right, I need to book something in the next month or I have to go get a real job because I am completely out of money.
Of course.
And I remember in the audition, I had to rap. There was a rap in the scene and it was like 4 lines and I like memorized it. I had to do it. And the second I'm in the audition, I'm like, I need to book this so I can eat tomorrow. And I completely blanked on it. And so I just started improvising the rap. And it was just off the rails. And I just decided to like double down and just go into like Slim Shady mode and just like really start going at them. And like, look, I can freestyle a little bit, but oh my God, I was terrible on this thing. And it was one of those where like, okay, you are done now. And I just like got into my car and just sat there quietly like, all right, cool.
This is why casting directors need a stiff one after any audition. The amount of desperation in a casting room is harsh.
So yeah, when you go into that or like you go into any job interview, it's really hard when you do actually need it to kind of divorce yourself and just be like, I'm just here for, you know, because so much of these jobs are also just, are you a good hang? Are you a good company fit?
I feel like honestly though, back to being in our 30s, I feel like we could clean up some auditions now. Because I'm way more laid back.
Yeah.
I would want to be the casting director because I like to be in charge. Yeah. But I think that it would be an entirely different experience.
I'd want to be that guy that just comes in with just like a bunch of rings, using them as props and just milking it, taking my time, full on like McConaughey.
Pack some snacks and eat them during the audition.
Come in eating an apple. Like, so are we doing this?
And we're doing this thing. And then I like toss it on the ground. They're like, pick it up.
That's the dream. It's the dream to be that kind of actor where you can just really bite an apple and throw it on the ground.
And dirty,
have that confidence.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah.
We're not closing the book.
No. Casting directors, if you see this and think we're good for maybe a rom-com.
Ooh.
About 2 podcasters who fall in love.
Oh, who are not married yet.
Oh, right.
Not married yet.
Because we have to act.
Hide your ring. Okay, moving on.
But yeah, that's a great one. So just lower the stakes. It's really like, even for this podcast, we're lowering the stakes. No one's seeing it. We're just doing it for fun.
My hands are like perpetually sweating. So nervous.
Once again, we're trying to walk this out. We're just talking to ourselves right now. Like
we are.
I'm just looking at her. Lower the stakes.
Lower the stakes.
I need it.
Okay.
So
this ain't no thing. Why don't you go to your next one, Zachy?
All right. This is a quote. I might get the name wrong. Dipin Parmar.
Beautiful name.
Forgive me if I got that wrong. But it's the magic you're looking for is in the work you're avoiding. So this one hits me because I relate this to my procrastination. If you're a creative person, you might deal with procrastination. I know it is a sickness that we deal with.
I know.
So when you allow small, manageable tasks like cleaning a messy room to just pile up, it becomes an excuse or a barrier that prevents you from addressing bigger and more important issues or goals. So we've talked about fear before.
Okay.
Sometimes I feel like procrastination is my subconscious protecting me from the fear. And so when I'm thinking about this, the magic you're looking for is in the work you're avoiding. I think you can look at it through a bunch of different lenses. This first way I'm looking at it is I procrastinate on my laundry sometimes.
Sometimes he does.
Go easy on me.
Okay.
Sometimes I procrastinate on my laundry. And when I have these big passion projects, these ideas that I want to do, sometimes the first things that I say is like, oh, I could do that Saturday, but I have to go do laundry on Saturday. And I find myself on Saturday and maybe I do a load or I don't even get to it.
Or you don't do the load.
Okay, go easy on me.
Yes, okay. This is a very triggering topic for me.
But when I have now created this barrier to my dreams by not doing my laundry because I'm using that as this built-in excuse. When my office is clean, when my desk is tidy, when I finally get in shape, when all these different things that I am putting off because I am trying to delay the actual thing that I want to do that I'm actually frightened to do. Right. I'm not frightened to do laundry. I'm frightened to, once the laundry is done and I no longer have an excuse, I'm afraid to dive into that. Sure. And so that work that I am avoiding can open the magic. I see another thing with this is taking it from a mental health standpoint.
Okay.
The work that you have to do sometimes, like with a therapist, to find yourself and your authentic voice that you want to give.
Yeah.
Sometimes you really have to do the hard work in order to get to that next chapter that you as an artist are able to put that into your art and put it out there in the world.
Absolutely. Because that like big protective wall, it was like you kind of encased yourself.
Right.
And the therapist literally has to Michelangelo that and just crack it down.
Really. And you know, like when it's really hard to be honest in your art if you're not being honest with yourself. And if you're purposely avoiding different things in your life, extremely hard things in your life, and you're not overcoming them, it makes it that much harder to do it in your art, or at least your art won't ring true or relatable or touch someone in the way that you're hoping for it to be.
Right.
And I found like when finding myself in a script and really getting stuck on a character, and getting stuck on a motivation or something that I need for this character to go through. And most of the times it just reflects where I'm at currently in life.
Of course.
Where how am I supposed to write about a character who needs to go on this journey of self-discovery, and through this journey they're going to find the thing that they've been looking for, when I can't even do that myself. I can get to that story to a certain point, but then I find that I have this kind of emotional blockage that I can't do it. And I have found that when I have dug into the deep, hard work of understanding myself, understanding, past things that have happened, it has been extremely hard, but it has opened me up to being honest and then finding those answers that I'm searching for in my work.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you have anything that you kind of avoid or?
I avoid a lot of things. Not really though.
But everybody has their own thing, right?
Yeah. I kind of feel like the delaying happiness is kind of a thing where I relate to you in creating things, but I often find myself in a place like, when I do this, I will feel this. When I'm very like transactional minded. And I think like sometimes the pressures of looking a certain way or appearing a certain way or having it all together, I think like, okay, if I have my nails done, hair's freshly done, I will feel confident going into this situation.
Right.
Like when I'm on set, I want to be perceived as this type of person. Again, we're back with that like perception and perfectionism concept for me personally. Mm-hmm. But I think it's really difficult to continue to delay your happiness based on an external factor. And when you're chasing something that has to do with how you look on the outside, or maybe how your art is perceived by other people or appreciated, you are really setting yourself up for a dangerous thing, right? Mm-hmm. It's not something that is lasting. And I think that's why a lot of people think Hollywood or LA is a really sad place. Yes, it can be, but also it is such a beautiful place. And I do think a community filled with people attaching meaning to everyday things can create such a beautiful community. And I do think like I've been working on trying not to chase, like, I'll be happy when this podcast is successful,
right?
Versus being okay right now of like having deep conversations with my life partner, my business partner is so cool. Having them recorded is so sick. And I feel so grateful for that.
Yeah. Like this is going to be an amazing thing for you and me to look back on in 10 years, 20 years and see us at this point of life and be so grateful that we did this.
Absolutely. Also, it's like, this is our like truest train of thought right now.
Right.
We're probably not going to have the same opinions on a lot of these topics a year from now. And thank God for that. But I think there's bravery in just owning whatever season you're in, owning where you're at and just trying to be as grateful as possible. And that's why I think like there's those like journals, like the 5-minute like gratitude journal. Like you can roll your eyes at that sort of thing. But I think there's beauty in staying grounded in practical things, especially as creatives, when you're constantly pulling things down from the sky, trying to create something that does not currently exist on planet Earth. Yeah. That's a lot of pressure. And it's so easy to feel disappointed in yourself if you're moving maybe at a glacier pace, which again, it takes a long time to build up any kind of business or kingdom, but being okay with just the day-to-day of like, today we came to downtown LA, we set up and we're living out a dream right now. And that should be good enough, right?
Yeah.
And we should be grateful. And I think we really are.
Yeah. So I just say like for any kind of like creative person, look for the things in life that you are avoiding. You know, it could be something as silly as cleaning your room. It could be something way bigger. And look at that stuff and try to attack it head on. I really do think only good is going to come from that, even if it is extremely painful to deal with. But you're going to be a better person for it. So the magic you're looking for is in the work you're avoiding.
I love that. And then our next one, my favorite is if you're feeling stuck, go explore.
Go explore.
Go explore. This kind of just reminds me of, again, you were talking a little bit about writer's block, but also just like any kind of creative, it's easy to feel stuck. It's easy to feel like it's easy to feel like you're in a rut and things feel very mundane.
Yeah.
I am constantly looking for new inspiration to infuse in clothing that I make, to infuse into the posts that we're doing. And sometimes it's as easy as switching your environment or trying something new. Mm-hmm. Literally a year ago in July, I went to my first yoga sculpt class ever.
Okay.
It is a yoga sculpt class. So it's like a Pilates on the mat style class.
Okay.
At Core Power Yoga, it's 105 degrees in a room.
Really? Like literally?
It is literally 105 degrees. So it's like you walk in a dry human and you walk out wet head to toe. It's
okay. That explains a lot why you always are coming home sopping wet.
Okay, let's be easy there, friend. How embarrassing. But no, literally you're wet head to toe. It's incredible. I, again, found this class, stumbled in there. This was like towards the end of my like burnout season where I was looking for a new outlet. I needed some kind of hobby, needed something to do. Mm-hmm. And on this day, I randomly stumbled into this class and literally, I felt like my whole life changed. And I have been going to this class every single day since last year.
She's not kidding. Every single day.
The instructors are constantly calling this a practice where it's like on your mat, you are practicing X. And for a while, again, you're in a 105 degree classroom. You're kind of rolling your eyes like, let's get to it. Like, let's get after it and get the hell out of this room. But the thing that I learned and the thing that I'm so obsessed with it is this idea of who you are on the mat transfers to who you are outside of the class. So the practice of taking deep breaths. That feels good. The practice of taking up space, practicing positions like Warrior 2. Warrior 2 is this incredible position that it's like a warrior preparing for battle. And they used to do these positions in ancient times to like take up space in an atmosphere. And I think it's so beautiful to practice something kind of ancient like that in today's time, because up until that class, I can't remember the last time I took a deep breath, truly.
Yeah.
I hadn't been breathing. I didn't even know how I felt. I knew I felt burnt out. I felt sad. I felt anxious. But this idea of being in Warrior 2, of being in Downward Facing Dog, and just taking up space in a room with a community of people has been the most healing thing. And so what I can say, it's like, if you're feeling stuck, go be a newbie at something, right? Go like be somewhere else that you've never been before. Also, it's like this yoga community is wildly amazing, of course, but it has opened up my perspective to so many things. And I think learning to take up space in a practice that I hadn't done before. As a creative, I was able to try something new. And I felt like taking deep breaths in that classroom, taking up space in that classroom has transferred to my creative work.
Yeah.
Where I feel less afraid. And when I am faced with struggles now in my real life, I take deep breaths now.
Yeah.
Whereas I used to not do that. And so I feel like I believe everything is connected. So if you're feeling stuck as a creative, you're feeling like kind of washed out, it's time to just try something new, go challenge yourself, go do something that scares you, and go be with like humans you don't know, because it'll change you.
Yeah, like it can be something as simple as just like have something for lunch that you've never had before.
Right.
Go just switch it up and try it out. And I think like
drive a different way to work.
Yeah, like because when you get stuck in a routine, like it's easy to keep telling yourself, like building the habit of getting stuck. I find that, like, especially as a person who has a routine with writing,
Absolutely.
if I'm finding the same thing and I just keep walking out all the steps over and over again, I need to switch it up if I'm feeling stale. But yeah, that's great. And going exploring a different new hobby has completely opened you up to new things, new avenues, new businesses.
New connections. Like a year later, I'm helping one of my favorite Pilates instructors have a mental health event with her Pilates class. So it's
that's
like
amazing.
You just never know what's going to happen.
Yeah. And this like thing of like feeling stuck, like getting writer's block as we've all done it. My favorite writer, Shea Serrano, shout out, always says that whenever he has writer's block, he just knows that he hasn't done the research enough. And I think you can see that as being a writer. You can see that as in any kind of this creative, any of these creative fields. You just haven't done the research. And when I view the research as the exploration.
Yeah.
And so taking it to my own thing, like being a writer, once again, it's like, I don't know this character. If I'm getting stuck with, I don't know what this character is going to do in this moment, I haven't done enough of the research. And it's allowing myself to have fun with exploring. I took this BBC Maestro class. It's like a ripoff of Masterclass. And I took it with Bill Lawrence, the creator of Scrubs and Ted Lasso. My hero.
You love him.
Love him. And he talks about spending so much time on your characters in the beginning of writing out your script and doing this work that will never be seen. But if you do all this work, if you figure out this person's backstory, this person's family life, this person's dreams and goals, the things they accomplished and didn't accomplish in their life, their likes, their dislikes, when you do all of that, you have this knowing of someone. And so you're able to then put it out there in the world and have it interact with other characters.
100%.
And like a bad character is someone like, if you're ever like writing a script, this is another Bill Lawrenceism, but if you're ever writing a script and you realize, oh, this character hasn't said something in a while, let's just replace this joke for them, and you give them the exact same joke and it still works, that means that you have a bad character, because each character really should be their own unique self.
Absolutely.
And think about your favorite things, your favorite shows, your favorite movies.
Modern Family.
Sure. Modern Family. They all have unique characters.
Modern Family, the character development is so damn good. I could pick up a script and be like, Cam would say it like this and he would do this.
Exactly. If something came up, Cam and Mitch are going to react completely different to it. Gloria's going to react differently to it. Phil's going to react differently to it.
Obsessed.
And so like when you are, and that's in the writing field, like when you are feeling that stuck, you just haven't done the research yet. If you are doing something like a design, sometimes when I'm designing and I'm feeling stuck or uninspired, one of my favorite things to do is to get out of the house and drive around Burbank. Burbank is it's
Old.
It's old and it's in the valley here in Los Angeles, but what it has is a bunch of these old signs.
So much like retro energy.
A lot of retro energy, and not in like the cool retro way. Like they don't know it's retro kind of way.
It's like mismatched font, but it's like a vibe.
But I love driving around and finding inspiration from that. And maybe it's a typeface that you see. Maybe it's a colorway that you haven't ever really tried in your designs. It's so great to get out and explore in the world and see how things are done differently. And so I encourage you, like in any kind of field that you might be working on, that if you are feeling stuck, go out. Go do something. Go try something new. You are going to find your answer probably subconsciously by doing that.
Absolutely. Set yourself free.
Yeah.
Be a kid again.
Be a kid again. Go have fun. I mean,
use your imagination.
Go play.
The possibilities are endless.
What we do for a living is what we used to call as play when we were kids.
Yes.
So every once in a while, you got to tap back into that.
Play pretend.
Yeah.
It's not that deep.
It's not that deep.
Come on.
Come on, guys.
Ooh. Oh, I love this one.
So this one is very simple, and it's just try again. You didn't accomplish your goal, try again. It's okay. No one cares. Keep going. Try again.
Try again.
It's sometimes that simple. If you failed, try it again.
Wait. You got to tell that story. The high school one.
Okay.
This is like not to do with creativity. I think it's just a funny
It's a story about getting rejected big time. And then getting back up on my horse and trying again.
All right.
So when I was a freshman in high school,
yikes!
I was in a brand new high school facility. We were the first class to go through it. And it was homecoming was coming up. And it was the first dance of the year. And I was nervous because people were starting to get asked to this dance very quickly as soon as school started. Girls were getting picked off left and right.
Freshman year,
it was the thing.
Wait, that's crazy.
And so I really wanted to go with someone because I just didn't want to be the only person without a date and feeling like a loser.
Did you have a lot of friends freshman year?
Yeah.
Did you like go into freshman year with friends?
Yeah, but my middle school like funneled into the high school. So it wasn't like that. But like that jump from 8th grade to 9th grade, it's different. People look different. Half of us look like adults,
Men.
the other half look like children. I was like oddly in between. But I wanted to ask a girl. And so I was looking around and I was talking to this one girl and I really liked her and I was kind of dropping hints and I thought like, okay, you know what? This is the girl I'm going to ask to homecoming. Being the showman that I am.
I'm so nervous right now.
I decided that if I was going to do it, I wanted to do it big. I wanted to do it memorable.
Freshman year,
and maybe
bro?
part of me was thinking if I did it so big, she couldn't say no.
Oh my.
So I devised this plan where I made a deal with the office worker that in between first and second period.
Year?
Yeah.
How did you already have ins?
I was just like greasing the wheels every second I could get.
Good God almighty.
I made a deal that in between first and second period, I would hop on the announcements and ask the girl to homecoming. No one had ever done that before. This is a new high school. No one's ever really used the PA system before. And I'm like, let's do this.
I'm sick.
And I had like a dozen roses ready to go. So I was allowed to like get out of class early to do this.
Really?
I don't know. Maybe just the office lady like really liked me. Maybe I should have asked her to homecoming.
Let's
cut that.
Let's cut that one out of the pod.
But okay. But so it's about 5 minutes until class is about to get out.
Okay.
I'm nervous as hell. I'm shaking. I go on the intercom.
I'm shaking right now.
Bing, bing, bing. It made that noise.
It did?
It was like a real high school.
Wow.
And I just go, ladies and gentlemen, this is Zack Evans.
No.
And I have a message for, I'm not going to say her name.
She knows who she is.
Well, she knows. She's watching.
She's sweating too.
And I said her, let's call her Morgan Evans for the sake of it.
Yeah, let's call her me.
That's her. So I go, ding, ding, ding. This is Zack Evans. I have a message for Morgan Evans.
I'm so
scared.
It's
this. Kind of dramatic pause.
No,
I was always dramatic.
I know.
And it's this. Will you go to homecoming with me? Boom. Let it off. The bell goes off. I timed it perfectly.
Oh,
the bell comes out.
Word.
And I'm walking to this girl's class and she was upstairs. And as I'm walking down the halls, all the classes, they start to get out. And I'm a freshman, and these first classes, they're all upperclassmen. They all heard me say this. It went through the entire school.
You are.
They all know that, and they're following me and starting to chant.
What are they chanting?
I think they're yelling either my name or I was like...
If they were saying your name, you'd remember. They're like, Evans, Evans.
Yeah, let's just say that for the sake of the story.
That's
but
sick.
they're with me and they're hyping me up. Like the freaking quarterback of the football team's like grabbing my shoulders like, let's go, bro. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And we're going up and I'm walking up and I'm starting to feel good. I'm like, yeah, like I feed into this.
You're
I'm like, yeah, let's go. I got the roses. I'm like waving it. Like it was a whole thing. And I get up to her classes and her class is coming out. And she's the last person there, and I see her, and she's crying. And I go, oh my God, I just made this girl cry. I'm that sweet of a guy. Like, I just did it. And all of a sudden I realized, I'm like, oh, this isn't like that cute of a cry. It seems like there's a little pain behind it.
Oh my.
And she walks up to me and goes, can I talk to you? And the entire school is surrounding us.
Oh.
The entire school. And she just goes, this other boy just asked me 10 minutes before in the actual class.
Oh.
And so I decided to go with him.
Oh, balls.
She's a really sweet girl. Like all throughout high school, she was sweet. And I go, okay. And she like tries to give me the flowers back. And I'm like, no, you keep them.
Keep them.
And we like turn our separate ways and people realize that she said no to me and everyone kind of groans. And then this one kid yells, rejected. And I feel something all of a sudden hit me. And it's like kind of warm.
Oh my gosh.
And I look and it's clam chowder. And someone has just thrown clam chowder at me and yelled rejected. And it's in front of the entire school.
No.
And here's the kicker. I have to go to the bathroom and wipe it all off to make it to my next class, which I thought I strategically planned as the class I had with this girl. And I sat right next to her.
Done.
So I had to go into class with half of my shirt wet from wiping off clam chowder. And everybody in the room, including the teacher, knew what I had just done and that she had said no. And I had to sit down and I was rejected. So that wasn't great. That's how I started off high school. Let a lesson be learned there for anyone who's thinking about making a fool of themselves. But you know what? I did it again my senior year.
Did you?
And this time though, I went on the intercom.
Oh my God, a full circle moment.
And I asked the girl that I really liked to there and she said yes.
Oh my God.
I tried it again. Now, some people might think that's insane.
Were you already boyfriend, girlfriend with this person?
Oh, I made sure, yes.
Okay.
I had a verbal commitment. I just needed to make the act of it.
And it was not me, okay?
But I didn't want that to wreck my experience. And so I had the fear of going to homecoming alone. And guess what? I went alone. And I wore all black and a pink tie and a fedora.
You wore a fedora?
I wore a fedora.
Was it pink or black?
The fedora was black.
Okay.
The only thing pink was my tie.
Were you wearing pink Vans?
No.
Black Vans.
They were just like black shoes.
Like every quirky guy freshman year is like, I'm going
to wear Vans with the suit. Yeah.
Like, oh, you're sick, bro.
I never liked the Vans with the suit look. But this is coming from someone who wore a pink tie and a fedora.
Yeah, sure.
I was like, that's whack. Let me get this fedora on.
You're not a fedora guy.
It was just Justin Timberlake was hot. Like it was like that time. Future Sex Love Sounds was out. He's wearing a fedora, just going, it's just Justin. I thought I was that. But I went there and I was the first person on the dance floor and I had a great time. And I didn't let it ruin it for me.
Did girls dance with you?
Maybe, not really.
Okay, that wasn't the point though.
It's okay. But like, you know what? And it does make me feel better because that girl dated the guy that asked her for like all of high school. Oh. So it was a real thing.
Okay.
So I could have gotten in the way of that. They're no longer together because it was a high school thing. But still,
that was their person for then.
But I needed to try that again. And I couldn't let that be soured. And that was a time when I was really rejected in public. And yeah. I can't believe I just told that story.
Me neither. It was so juicy though.
it was juicy. I mean, even like teachers, like for the rest of the week, were like, ugh. Like my math teacher is like, that was rough.
Yeah,
all right.
That was
like, I'm talking like years later. They're like, hey, do you remember when you did that? I'm like, yeah. They're like, damn.
Yeah. It's like you're laughing right now, but there are tears in your eyes.
Oh yeah. Coming home, my parents were like, how did it go? I'm like, well,
Oh,
imagine the worst case scenario and it involves clam chowder.
Also, did your parents drop you off from school that morning?
Yeah.
Because you didn't drive. You're a baby boy.
I'm like having my dad. I'm like, hey, can we go pick up flowers? He's like, flowers for what? I'm like, you'll find out on the news.
Cooking. I'm done with you.
And yeah, but you know what? You just got to try again. No one cares. Just go ahead and do it. And so that's a little story of me trying again. And yeah, hopefully you can learn something from that.
I'm obsessed with that. Pop off, Zack Evans. You're a hero. You're a legend.
Thanks.
One of one.
Thanks.
Okay. Well, moving past that, our last wrap-up quote here is see past the rules.
See past them.
This is I feel like my mantra.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like my journey in Los Angeles cannot be defined on a LinkedIn profile. I really want to make one, but it's like, it just wouldn't, I don't know how it would look.
You have one.
I have one and it's legit.
Yeah.
But my reason for that is nothing I have done here in this city has been the traditional way of going about doing anything.
Not a single thing.
Not a single thing. I have had so many cool jobs and experiences, and it has been because I have weaseled my way under. I have not taken no for an answer ever. I have invented things, and it has been the funnest, wildest ride I've ever had.
Weaseling in seems like the appropriate way of describing that.
Weaseling in, but not, I feel like a weasel doesn't deserve to be there.
That's true. I take it back.
I'm a talented human. I deserve to be there.
I guess more like physically like a weasel.
Well, because I'm little. I'm 5'2". It's just like, who's that little thing over there? But I bring great vibes and everyone's like, personality, let's ride. And I say, you got it, dude. Okay. Well, something of a quote. We had just posted a video by Alex Banyan.
Banyan. I think Banyan.
Banyan? We'll see. But
correct us in the comments.
Yeah, correct us in the comments. But something we love that he says is the third door method, which obviously it's like, think of life like a nightclub. So it's like door one, 99% of the public, we're waiting in line. It's wrapped around the block. You're just trying to get into the club. Then there's the 1%, which is like VIP, millionaires, billionaires. They can buy their way into the club. And then the rest of us, which I identify with, it's the third door. So that one is around the block. Maybe it's 10 steps down. It's in a dungeon. You're banging on the door. You're crawling through a window. This is maybe the weasel, right?
Yeah. This is where I was getting back with the weasel thing. See, you understand the weasel thing now.
You understand the weasel thing. It's just, you are not taking no for an answer. You see yourself somewhere and nothing in the world is going to get in your way.
Yep.
And I feel like as creatives, that third door is such an important understanding to have. And I honestly think it's a posture. I think you need to posture yourself when you have a vision, when you have a goal, when you have a story to tell.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing in this world that could get in your way. If you're supposed to tell a story, right? Like being a creative, it's a divine calling. And that third door is, I feel like it's one of the most important things we could find.
There's always going to be another way in. There's the traditional way, there's the exclusive way, but you can find and create your own way in. That doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but you can do that. And I think a lot of people miss that sometimes. And if you look at any of these successful, inventive people,
100%.
They all went their own way. They all have a unique story. And it's important to know that like there is no right way. All you have to do is get there.
Absolutely. And maybe also something that's kind of hard to accept too is like that third door option could be time. It could be years of waiting. It could be, again, like we get to do our podcast here at Hudson Loft, which is an incredible space that our friends own. And we're in this room today because 10 years ago, they bought one room and now they have taken over 4 stories of a building.
Mm-hmm.
But if you were to told us 10 years ago, it's like, oh, you'll get to do your thing, but you're going to have to wait 10 years because they're going to be hustling for a relentless 10 years doing this. But what's so cool is like this podcast exists because of their belief in us and we get to do it here. And that third door is sometimes time. And that's not very glamorous. That's not very fun, but that's the real part of it.
Yeah, just creating and making your own way. I also have a story of making up something that we can maybe leave the pod on.
I love that story.
So this is about how I made up an internship when I was in college.
Very Weasley.
Very Weasley of me. Not, that proud. I don't know. It's like there's a thin line between lying and doing what you can, but it was my senior year of college and I needed an internship to graduate. And back to the whole procrastination thing, I was putting it off.
You waited till like the last week, bro. I'm still shocked you graduated. There was a lot of little things that needed to happen.
And maybe I was afraid of graduating and facing the real world. And so I was putting off this whole internship thing.
Okay.
But I was looking for this internship going into the last semester of my college. And I stayed at my school during the winter break for about 4 more days because I needed to secure this internship. I was calling, I was emailing, I was applying on job sites and LinkedIn's looking for an internship, and I couldn't find anything. No one had any openings. And if anyone did, it was just something that it had nothing to do with what I wanted to do because it had to be in the film industry. I went to film school. And so I started thinking about a third door. How can I find this? And I was really thinking, I want to work on a show that I love. And at the time, my favorite show was Workaholics. If you're familiar with the old Comedy Central show with Adam Devine and Blake and Anders.
Yeah.
Anders, it's Swedish, I don't know. But I loved that show and I wanted to figure out how to work on it. I found a bunch of emails. I was looking out and reaching out for people. And then I found this old web series that they made on YouTube. And I'm telling you, the views were very low on it. Doing my research, I figured out that this was the project that they made to sell to Comedy Central to get the show made. And when Workaholics was a show, it would say created by, and it'd have the 4 guys on it, but they had these 2 other guys as the creators of the show. So I decided to look into those 2 guys, thinking maybe they would be accessible. I was able to get into contact with both of them because they were both just average guys. They didn't work on the show. And the story was...
We love that energy.
The story was that they were part of this small production company that helped them make this pilot presentation in exchange for a producer credit.
Cool.
Of this. So they really had nothing to do with the show, but they were there. Through this one guy who I found on Facebook. It was a little sketchy. It was a little sketchy. He told me about the management company / production company that was producing Workaholics.
Okay.
And he got me the email of the head of the company.
Okay.
I emailed this person saying I was referred by one of the creators of Workaholics. I didn't say the guy's name.
Not necessary.
Yeah.
Keep it moving. Keep it rolling.
And I said, I'm looking forward to my interview for the internship. And they said, the assistant emailed me back being like, yeah, come on in for Tuesday. And I think it was about the weekend. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I have this interview and I have to go back home to Sacramento for Christmas that Wednesday. So I had this one shot and I go in and it's in Beverly Hills. I sit down with the head person who is like a big time, it's a big time management company, production company. And she sits down and I think she was British, if I remember correctly.
Right.
She sits down and she goes, I'm just a little confused. What is this internship? And I'm sitting there.
The internship.
And I'm like, the internship, I could do anything for you. I can read scripts. I can go get coffee. And she was like, we don't really need an intern. And so it was in that moment where I leveled with her and I went, hey, I really want to be a part of this show. I'm really inspired by it. I want to be a comedy writer and I need an internship or I can't graduate.
Okay.
And she's like, well, we can't pay you. And I'm like, I will do this for free. This is back when you could do internships for free, when people were getting free labor. Pay the interns. But she was so confused by it. And she was like, sure, we'll do whatever. And I'll sign off on this. And so
love that.
She said, can you come in on Mondays and Wednesdays? And I said, yes. And I started coming in and they really, every day I was doing something different. But this is then when Workaholics came into production and I got to see all 4 guys go in there.
That's so cool.
Come in there and they pulled me into meetings and I got to sit in on production meetings that they were having.
Throw you a watch once?
Yeah, Adam Devine gave me a G-Shock watch that he got from the Teen Choice Awards and I sold it for $200.
Whoa, did you really?
Yeah, he really helped me out there. $200 in college too.
And
I'm commuting to Beverly Hills, but
that was a long
I
drive.
got to be around all of those guys and it was so surreal seeing these people that I really looked up to and seeing them as real and seeing them all be friends, laughing, making something together
That's
and
so
being
cool.
a part of it. It was awesome. But I took the third door to get there. And I wouldn't necessarily give that advice to tell a white lie or get in there, but that's the way that I did it. And I was able to like make connections and meet people there. And nothing really came out of it after the internship, but it's something that I'll never forget. And I'll always have a soft spot for the lady who owned the company that I'm blanking on her name, but the whole Workaholics guys, they really inspired me and they were all really nice to me. So
that's so cool.
That was my third door in that moment.
That's some fearless stuff. I love it.
It was make or break, man. I'm like, hey, I'm not going to graduate.
You're like, this is the rules.
Yeah. I think my only other like thing was doing like helping out in post for like a gory horror movie short film kind of place, and they showed me one of their films and I had nightmares and I was
that
like,
feels
I can't
scary.
do that.
That feels like Fright Night at Universal
I
Studios
couldn't
energy.
do it. I don't love scary things.
No, you don't.
Yeah, but so these are all things that we believe.
And that leaves us on our theme of don't let perfect be the enemy of good.
Was this podcast perfect? No. Was it good? Sure.
We had fun.
We had a great time. I hope you had a great time. Comment, I had a great time if you did.
If you did.
And even if you didn't, please just do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, this was this episode. I had a lot of fun.
Me too.
Hopefully it wasn't off the rails.
It felt off
That's an
the
inside
rails.
joke before we were shooting. I apologize for anyone trying to put two and two together there. But all right, that's it for this episode.
Bye.
See you guys.
We know this. Disconnected, but doing what I was called to do. In tune, tuned in, and in full pursuit. And I've seen what karma can do. So do good and let that good come back to you.